Welcome to Veronica Live, and I'm here with my wingman, statesman John Salick, and we have a special guest today. We have the President and Chief Financial Officer, Donald Howell, and he is of the Southern Sky Aviation and their new fixed-base operation located here at Northwest Florida Beach's International Airport at ECP, and we are going to be having a ribbon cutting here this week, so we are so excited to have you, Donald. Welcome to Veronica Live.
Well, thank you for having me.
So tell us about this new operation and what you're going to be doing out there. I was stalking the company on Facebook and on your website, and it just looks absolutely amazing.
Well, thank you. So we're extremely excited about our new operation here at ECP. As you well know, this airport has experienced tremendous growth over the last decade, and a part of that growth is general aviation or private aviation. And so for most people that do not understand this, when you fly private aviation, you do not go into the main terminal at the airport where the commercial airlines are. You go into a private aviation terminal known as a fixed-based operation. And what a fixed-based operator does is they act as the terminal for private aircraft, whether it be charter aircraft or you're flying your own aircraft. They also sell fuel. So airplanes, they can't just fly on thin air. So they have to have fuel, and so we sell fuel. We also have hangars where we have customers that are in the area, and they would like to store their aircraft with us. We also have what are known as transient customers. They're not based here, but they're going to be here for a number of days, and they would like their aircraft stored inside a hangar. And so we provide transient hangar service for those customers. So that very quickly kind of describes our operations here at ECP. As a company as a whole, Southern Sky Aviation is a full-service aviation company where we offer FAA Part 135 charter operations, FAA Part 145 maintenance operations, and then our fixed-based operation division. And here in Panama City, this is the second location for us, and it is our premier FBO at this point. It is a major investment, but it was an investment we were very excited to make. This community has experienced incredible growth. The economic development team is absolutely on fire in Bay County, and they continue to grow the business base. And so we wanted to be a part of all of that growth.
Well, that's exciting. And what is the economic impact? Because, when I was researching, it said like it was a $25 million investment. Did it exceed that? I mean, that is huge for our area here in Bay County.
Yeah, so our investment actually ended up being around $30 million. And we have a long-term lease with the airport authority, and we will be here for a long time to come. And so it all depends on how you measure economic development value. And I'm not one of those guys that does that. But what I can tell you is there were a lot of people during the construction process that were local companies that were hired for our project. There
Fantastic.
Were a lot of supplies and materials that were purchased locally, and in addition, we have 15 employees to start this operation out, and of those 15 employees, 13 of them lived here locally in the Panama City area, and so we want to do our part as a good corporate citizen, and we want to be a part of the community. and that is, helping to drive economic growth and economic value. But it's also, taking our people and getting them involved in various organizations throughout the community and doing our part in order to help this community continue to shine and grow.
That's fantastic.
So Don, the airport, ECP has been, matter of fact, 1 month from now, the 23rd of May, the airport that's going to be the 14th anniversary of the airport. And we've had one FBO shelt there the entire 14 years, which I don't really like, but not I don't like shelt air. I think competition is good. But when did y'all make the decision or see that the market would accommodate a second FBO here? Is that been a long time in the planning, or is it something fairly recent?
So the seeds were planted probably over 5 years ago, because the chairman of our board, he had a house down here and he had an airplane in one of the corporate hangars, and he got to know Parker McClellan, the executive director of the airport, and told Parker, hey, if there's ever a day when there's enough growth at this airport and you are looking for a second FBO, we would like to have that opportunity to build an FBO for you. And so that's how the seed was planted probably about 8 years ago. In May of 21, we were down here because we had noticed all of the growth in the area, and we were just exploring. And we were introduced to Becca Harden with Bay County Economic Development, and we had a long conversation with Becca about our desire to be a part of the growth at the airport, and so we decided that it probably would be worth having a meeting with Parker McClellan to just talk about where the airport stood in terms of growth, especially in the general aviation area, and what did the prospects look like for a second FBO. And so the concepts of our project here really were born out of those discussions in May of 21. And soon thereafter, conversations escalated very quickly, and the data supported that there was enough business in the private aviation sector coming into this airport that they really needed a second FBO. And so we presented, our concept of what we wanted to do. We wanted to build a state-of-the-art, first-class facility, for this airport, and quickly things took off. And in June of 22, we finalized and signed our long-term lease for the ground that we have here at the airport. And then in January of 23, we started construction. And so that tells you that it just didn't happen overnight. That
so Donald,
it took some time.
So do you think that COVID played a big part in this as well? Because, we are Freedom, Florida, and I felt like during COVID, the whole world showed up here. Do you think that helped with the growth and the expansion?
So COVID played a critical role in the development of general aviation all over the world, to be quite honest with you. Specifically in the United States, when COVID hit and the commercial carriers, in essence, shut down or almost shut down, they also dramatically cut back on the number of routes that they were flying. And ultimately, as we started to go into about the third month of COVID, people realized that the world still was going to keep going around. Businesses were going to continue to operate, and people had to get from point A to point B. And if they couldn't get there through commercial airlines, then they realized, well, I'm going to get there somehow. And so I'm going to charter an airplane, and I'm going to get where I need to go. And so from the onset of COVID all the way through the end of 2022, the general aviation sector saw tremendous growth. You saw charter companies that were growing exponentially. You had aircraft ownership growing exponentially. The other problem, though, that exacerbated all this is your original equipment manufacturers, or OEMs in the aircraft space, they shut down manufacturing. Well, they already had a backlog of purchase orders for new airplanes, and when they shut down during COVID, that backlog increased, and those companies still today are trying to work through those backlogs and manufacture and deliver all of the new aircraft that have been ordered by companies and individuals. And so, my long answer was absolutely yes. COVID played a key role in the growth of general aviation all over the U.S., but it had a larger impact here in the Panama City area because so many people during COVID were working remotely. So a lot of people that have beach houses or condos, they were flying in down here, and they were just working from their vacation home,
right?
Because they didn't have to go into the office, and so that also drove a lot of growth in this area.
Yeah, that's one thing I'm kind of curious about because on some of the big holiday weekends and stuff, there are enough jets out at ECP. I mean, it looks like Aspen at Christmas time. I mean, it really does. And I've been out. I used to go to Aspen all the time every year at Christmas, and jets everywhere. Okay, but do you have any idea where these people from, or I mean, is it something like East Coast kind of thing? Are they from the Northeast? Is it? I'm presuming they're going out to 30A and some of the nicer areas and stuff. But is there any particular customer profile, I guess, that's common to this?
So I would tell you that there is a very large representation of states where people are flying into ECP. You have a large concentration coming from Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, Tennessee, Georgia. There are quite a few folks from the Northeast, especially out of New York, that come down here. But truly, there are people from all over, and even international. There are international private flights that come into ECP
awesome.
Because they're going to the beautiful beaches along this coast.
Fantastic. So, I was perusing your Southern Sky Aviation website, and you have some jobs on there for pilots and some ground crew. So, how big is your fleet? How many pilots do you have? Because that's the thing. We could book a jet and fly somewhere with you all too. So talk about that, Donald.
So our charter operation really it involves aircraft management. As well as charter. And so currently we have 3 aircraft under management and on our charter certificate. But we are actually in a network of operators so that when we have demand that exceeds what our fleet is capable of doing, then we go to off-fleet operators. And some of those operators are right here along the Gulf Coast. Others are in different parts of the country, depending on where the customer is. So we have access through our network to over 5,000 aircraft in the United States. And so it's a lot of times we have customers that fly with us, and maybe they routinely fly a particular route, and they only need a certain type of airplane that maybe it seats 8 people. But once every 5 years, they do some special family event, and they need a much larger airplane that can seat 15 people. Well, that is the beauty of being a part of an organization with a network like ours, is we have access to operators that have large cabin aircraft like that. And so recently we had a customer, even though we're headquartered in Alabama, we have customers that are all over the U.S. And this particular customer, they were out of Los Angeles, and they wanted to fly to Paris, and they were going to spend 10 days in Paris. And so there are no aircraft in our fleet that are large enough to fly nonstop to Paris. And so we were able to work with another operator and secure an aircraft for our customer so that they could take their trip.
Outstanding. And that was one of my questions, if you do international runs. So that's outstanding.
So we fly domestic U.S., Mexico, and the Caribbean a lot. And then we go into Canada periodically. We just don't get that many requests to go into Canada. And then the requests to go to Europe, those are very few, but they do happen.
So it's an interesting concept. So you're a little bit different. You're not, I guess are you sort of like more like a NetJet, so wheels up? Is that, or is that?
Well, they're similar, but they're different. And here's the way that I like to explain it. If you're the customer that you plan in advance and you book and you want to go on round trips, I'm going point A to point B, back to point A, and I can tell you a month, 2 months, 3 months in advance. Typically, we are going to be less expensive than the large, big name brand charter operators like a NetJets or a Wheels Up or a FlexJet. However, if you are a customer where you will go from point A to point B, but then you're going to meet a friend in point B, and you're going to fly with him on his airplane to point C, but then you need to get from point C back to point A, then you likely could be a good candidate. If that is your habit and your pattern all the time, you're a better candidate for a NetJets or a FlexJet, and it's because they have a much larger fleet, and that fleet is all over the United States. Now, it's going to be more costly, but people understand that if that is their travel habit, and they want to fly private aviation, then they're willing to pay for that.
Well,
so from your operation here in Panama City, then are you looking to? I'm thinking the fixed base business right now. Obviously you want customers and stuff. So are you trying to attract the NetJet Wheels Up? I mean, they obviously have to use Shelter Air because that's been the only choice for so many years. Are you trying to attract them to your operation, or are you trying to coexist with and Shelter Air is an FBO only? I don't think they're in the charter business or anything like that.
They're not, but our operation in Panama City, we are focused just like Shelter Air is focused. And that is, we want to try and attract customers coming in here, whether it be the guy that owns a small single engine airplane, someone that owns a light jet, mid-sized jet, large jet, or the big charter operators, NetJets, FlexJet, Wheels Up, etc. We are trying to attract those same customers, and so yes, there is competition, and so we are trying to take the service level to a much higher level in order for us to be able to compete, and so but the simple answer is yes, we are trying to go after some of the same customers that Shelter Air has served for years.
I wanted to ask you, Donald, about the company, because I see the CEO and is it the chairman? Let me see. CEO and the chairman were in business together and formed this company. So I wanted to know a little bit of the history of your company, because it looks like they were in the drug, prescription business before they got into aviation.
Yeah. So our chairman, Bill Gunnels, he started a company over 25 years ago called RX Benefits, and it was a prescription drug card business, and they were very focused on small businesses, and they grew that company, had a lot of success, and our CEO, Bo Andrews, Bo was in charge of the flight department for RX Benefits. And RX Benefits experienced the growth that it did because of aviation. Every time the company bought a larger aircraft, they were able to expand the geographic reach from a marketing standpoint, and they were able to expand the customer base. And so that ultimately is what made the chairman a big believer in aviation, because he saw what it did for his business. That company was large majority of that was sold to private equity. Some of the young lieutenants that Bill Gunnels recruited to come to work for him, they took over management, and that company has tripled in value, and very likely they're getting ready to have another exit. But Bill Gunnels and Bo Andrews, after they exited RX Benefits, they wanted to remain in aviation, and the company was launched actually in 2016 as a charter-only company. It was called JetFast 365. They quickly realized on the Birmingham airfield that there was not only demand for charter operations, but there was demand for maintenance operations. And so they had to pivot and change the name of the company, because they had decided they were going to also get into the maintenance business. And that is when on January 1, 2017, they formed a new company, Southern Sky Aviation, and it launched. And then in February of 18, after running a previous company, I joined and became a partner in the business with Bill and Bo. And we set forth our strategy and grew the company. And so we're very proud of where we are today.
Yeah, and I see Bo is a commercial pilot, and he's also a lawyer. So these are all the things you need at the top of the business.
Yeah. So Don, we've interviewed Parker and Becca on a number of occasions, and the growth, the vision for the airport is interesting. And I'm curious, did any of the plans, one of the things that Bay County has here is we have a vocational school, and part of that, the vocational school is developing A&P mechanics, which is kind of unusual these days to find that kind of training. And they're eventually going to build a facility out there at the airport and expand that program. Is that something that helped attract you to this, or did they use that to entice you, or I'm just curious where you see that.
Well, we were very aware of Haney Technical College. We actually went and visited with Haney And at the time, Alex Murphy, she was over at Haney, and Becca and Parker introduced us to that team there, and we had lots of conversations about how we might be able to work with Haney. But our focus for Panama City initially was the fixed-based operation, and it was not maintenance operation. It's not to say that we will not consider building an MRO or maintenance repair and overhaul facility here at this airport. We would consider that, but the first step is we wanted to build a fixed-based operation and deliver a successful operation in that vertical of our business before we started focusing on the maintenance side. And so it is a big plus for this community, for the aviation community here, to have Haney and the A&P school there, because worldwide there is a shortage of 750,000 A&P technicians in our industry. And so everybody in the industry is doing everything they can in order to try and help get more people involved in the maintenance aspects of aviation.
So one of the other big things is the environmental stuff, and there's been a lot of attack on private aviation and the CO and all this kind of stuff. Do you see any of the things like sustainable aviation fuels? I know there's a big debate on unleaded avgas right now, as far as some foot dragging by the FAA and industry not really having a good plan forward on this. Do you see your company leading any of those efforts, or being like right now, sustainable aviation fuel for the jet crowd? A lot of them want to do it to advertise their environmental creds kind of thing. And is there demand for that kind of stuff, or is it just more at the government type discussion level that stuff's going on?
It's not just government discussion. There is some demand for sustainable aviation fuels. The question is how much will that demand grow? Currently, as we sit today, one of the problems that I personally have, and that we have talked about in senior management within our company, is when you buy sustainable aviation fuel and you put it in your fuel farm, it is getting mixed in with the traditional Jet A fuel that is not a sustainable aviation fuel. So I can't, in my mind, justify charging a customer the additional cost for, quote, buying a sustainable aviation fuel when I know it's not purely a sustainable aviation fuel. However, it is being done. That's how it's being done, and where those places are selling it. Some people may have dedicated tanks in their fuel farm, but I'm not sure that there's that much demand for it. I do think there are benefits. And what I will tell you, though, is next generation technology, i.e. Electric aircraft, electric aviation, hybrid aviation, it is coming. We will see it in our lifetime, and it is going to provide an environmental benefit, but it's also going to provide way more than an environmental benefit. It is going to change transportation infrastructure in this country. It is going to take rural areas in this country and provide them with new opportunities for transportation to get to and from places, services, care, etc. And so our company firmly believes in that. And to be quite honest with you, in the state of Alabama, I am actually leading the effort in order to try and get our state prepared for advanced air mobility. And so I have worked with a number of legislative folks in Alabama, and we had legislation passed and signed by the governor last summer to form an advanced air mobility task force. Our task force had numerous meetings and identified some key areas that we needed to focus on, but we also realized that one of the biggest things that we needed to do was we needed to do a strategic study to determine what infrastructure do we have that we can use in advanced air mobility, what infrastructure do we need that we don't have, what laws and ordinances do we need to consider revising or putting new ones in place in order to get our state prepared and fully embrace this next generation aviation technology. And so it has lots of environmental benefits, but I also truly believe there are lots of economic benefits that can come from that.
Outstanding. I did have a question also, just looking at your Facebook and the drone footage of the facilities. I wanted you to talk about the facilities because I'm jealous. John has gone on a tour. I have not yet, so I'm very jealous.
Yeah, I went out last week and talked to Scott Capehart, the general manager. Showed me around.
So tell me about your facilities, because you can work on airplanes, you can park airplanes. I assume some can house their airplanes there too. So tell us about that.
So our facility, first of all, from a design standpoint, I have to give kudos to Goodwin Mills and Kaywood, architectural and engineering firm. Steve Jernigan out of their Pensacola office led this project from a design and engineering standpoint. And then the other partner in this project was Reeves Construction from out of Birmingham. And the reason why we chose Reeves Construction is they have significant aviation experience. We knew them, we were comfortable with them. And so we all made a great team in designing and building this facility. And so it's got a really special appearance to it. And let's just say we have been blessed with a lot of positive comments and feedback. And so we're very, very excited about what we have to offer to the aviation community coming into ECP. And it's very new and fresh. And we have lots of amenities. So, but yes, so we are here as a traditional FBO operator, providing fueling service, hangar service. We cannot do any maintenance, heavy maintenance in these hangars, just because the building codes in terms of fire suppression systems for hangars that have maintenance operations in them are different than the building codes for aircraft storage hangars. And so we were very focused on aircraft storage hangars. But now if there's some very light maintenance items that have to be done in order to get an aircraft operational again, that can be done, but there will be no heavy maintenance operations in this facility here in Panama City.
So, Donald, were the buildings built for the Miami-Dade hurricane standards, I assume? Since we have been hit before.
Everything here is built to whatever the latest code is, and in my understanding, I think everything's wind rated for 160 miles per hour.
Great. And I see, I forgot to ask you in the beginning, but your background, you are a war eagle. So I'm a gator and a hurricane mom. So I just wanted to hear what your background is, because, you obviously like accounting and running this tremendous company. So tell our listeners about who you are.
So I graduated from Auburn in 1990, and everyone in my family went to Auburn. All my children have gone to Auburn. My third child, youngest daughter, she is finishing her junior year there. The only person in my family that was an Alabama fan was my grandfather on my mother's side, but that's okay. I loved him, but he loved Bear Bryant. I have an accounting degree. I've practiced in public accounting for 27 years, 14 years of that in the world of the Big 8, Big 6, Big 4. Then I went out and became a partner in another firm with some friends of mine that I had worked with at Arthur Andersen. And we built a very successful practice. And through my entire career, I provided tax services, mergers and acquisition services, venture capital services. And so I was constantly involved with helping people buy other companies, make investments in companies. And so finally in 2015, I put a group of investors together and we bought control of a startup manufacturing company with patented technology. And we grew that company and ultimately I left my firm, sold my interest in the firm, and became the CEO of that company. And then we sold assets of that company. And I knew that I did not want to go back to the world of accounting, that I had that entrepreneurial bug, and I wanted to help start and grow another company. And a mutual friend of mine and Bo Andrews introduced us, and literally that was the start of my opportunities with Southern Sky Aviation. So so we're in our sixth year at Southern Sky Aviation, and we have 64 employees in 3 states.
So Don, you're very forward sounding. You know, the thing with the urban air mobility in particular, I was kind of surprised at that your involvement in that. There's a lot of money being sunk into the UAM business these days. I typically follow it in Aviation Week, and I know the military is getting interested in it also. But this would actually be an ideal area for a UAM operation from ECP out to 30A or something. Rather than driving.
What air taxi services in the United States are going to have to be conducted by a FAA Part 135 charter operator. And so advanced air mobility, air taxi services, they will be an extension of our charter business at some point in time in the future. And so that is part of the driver as to why I am, getting so heavily involved. The second part of the driver is back to the statement that I previously made. Advanced air mobility is going to open up all sorts of new economic development opportunities in communities that previously may not have had a lot of opportunity. And it's going to create access to services, especially healthcare services, for communities that have not had easy access to those types of services. And so I think it's vitally important, not only for Southern Sky Aviation, but for the citizens in the respective states that we operate in, that we need to get those states prepared. We need to understand that the technology is real. Joby Aviation and Archer Aviation, I expect they will be flying the electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft for passengers by mid to late 25. That's not that far away.
So do you see
and
the UAM terminal, being part of your FBO? Is that kind of what your
well,
vision?
so you have to think about what do those type of aircraft need, and can I provide that in the existing space that I have, or are there so many traditional aircraft on the ramp in your existing FBO that you really need to have a dedicated vertiport for the vertical takeoff and landing aircraft. And so, you are referring to UAM, and some of your listeners may not understand what the U stands for, but that's unmanned.
Unmanned, yeah.
Almost everything is going to start out in the United States, even though the technology is designed and developed for the aircraft to be unmanned. In order to build confidence in the United States and this new technology, passengers are going to want to see a pilot in the cockpit.
So you don't see the Chinese model winning out, where the Chinese are already approving UAM.
The Chinese are doing the Chinese are doing things their way, and I'm not saying it's wrong, but I'm just saying that most people in the United States, for new aircraft technology like this, they're going to want to see a pilot in the cockpit. Ultimately, you will begin to see that those pilots fade away as people get more and more comfortable in these new aircraft. Now, the exception to that is Boeing has a subsidiary that is called Wisk, W-I-S-K, and Wisk is going to be unmanned from day one. They have made it very clear that is their intention, and the Wisk aircraft, I've seen a prototype of it, and it's unbelievable. And so what people need to understand is it is not like this new technology was just developed 3 or 4 years ago. Joby and Archer, the technology that they are going to commercialize and start flying in 2025, they started developing that technology 13, 14, 15 years ago. And they have constantly refined it. And so all of these new aircraft technologies have to go through a lot of testing and retesting and testing again, and the certification process with the FAA is very rigorous. And so by the time these new aircraft actually become certified by the FAA to fly passengers, they are going to have been tested a lot. And so I do think that when we get to 2028 to the 2030 timeframe, we will see a lot of additional players in this advanced air mobility space come to the market with their aircraft. But the two early birds will be Joby Aviation and Archer Aviation.
Very interesting.
So I'm curious. You have an accounting background, and new technology tends to be expensive and has a dubious payback. So one of the things I was talking with Scott about was out at your new facility you have a battery powered ground power unit, which is very green compared to the traditional diesel powered units that are out there. It has a lot of features on it, but from what I understand, is very expensive compared to the diesel models. Is that part of the? Where does that economic equation play with your company?
So, you've got to look at the economics of the equipment that we have to buy or rent to support our operations here. And the question becomes, can I charge service fees over some period of time that pays for that piece of equipment and also helps me to get a return on my investment? And so that's the calculation that you have to go through. that is why you have to be very careful in looking at that. So a brand new diesel powered ground power unit, we can buy a very, very good diesel GPU for $55,000 brand new today. But to go buy the green technology, the all battery powered GPU, it's $69,000. So are customers going to be willing to pay a lower fee for the diesel powered GPU and pay a higher fee for the all battery powered GPU? Or can you set one fee and actually realize profitability regardless of which unit you use? And I think it to be honest with you, it remains to be seen, because most people, you're getting the same fee regardless of what type of GPU. But sometimes there's a lot of pressure to use green technology.
Yeah, it's sort of like the sustainable aviation fuel. It generally costs more, and same thing, the unleaded avgases that are coming they're projecting them to cost $1 to $2 per gallon more than the regular 100 low lead, and the debate is who, are you going to pay the premium? Who's going to pay the premium? And there are people, and back to your customers, your customers, if they want the SAF, then they're probably willing to pay the extra fee for the green powered GPU. But I'm just guessing. Do you think that's the case?
Yeah, I honestly, it's an experiment right now.
Okay.
I mean, just to be quite honest with you, it is an experiment to see whether customers care enough that they specifically request one over the other. And so we thought this would be the perfect opportunity for us to have ground power units of each type, and let's see what is most in demand.
Yeah, and that was my question. Does one last longer than the other? So this will be interesting.
But and that's been the debate. Particularly on I fly a piston engine, so avgas is my my thing, and that's the debate. Is the FBOs. The manufacturers have made it. There's 1 million gallons of unleaded avgas sitting over in Baton Rouge in a refinery tank that's been approved by the FAA, certified by the FAA. And the problem is the distribution channel. It's like you have to get the FBOs have to order it. They can order it if they want it, but then the FBO looks at it and says, well, if I order 10,000 gallons of this, where's the customers for it? And it's a cart and horse situation in a lot of cases.
Yes, and honestly, that gets back to what we originally talked about is will the demand for sustainable aviation fuels continue to grow to justify the additional production capacity in order to produce it?
So, Donald, I wanted to ask you about, you've got some careers on there. I'm married to a retired fighter pilot. I need him to go fly one of those private jets, but I need to be the passenger because once you've flown private, you're ruined for life. So last year I got to fly several times private, and I've flown, with my husband around. But is there going to be a lot more expansion? Because I don't see this growth stopping. And, 30A is my playground. We have the best restaurants, and it's just adorable over there. And the homes and condos popping up. So I assume you're going to have lots of expansion, and then will you try to attract, other markets too? Like you said, you flew to Mexico. I'm fluent in Spanish, so I'm assuming you're going to probably get some Latin American rich people flying up here too. So what's the long-term growth plan? I assume it's going to just, go crazy.
Well, we obviously would love to see growth at this airport continue to advance forward. to the point that we're at max capacity, Shelter is at max capacity, and maybe you can then justify a third FBO. That would be good for this community. I'm not going to try and predict what will happen. What I will say is I am a very, very big believer in the current Bay County Economic Development team. They do an outstanding job. I'm a very big believer in the airport authority and the role that they play in economic development. I'm a very big believer in Parker McClellan and growing this airport and running a first-class operation. So when you put all of those ingredients together, then I give it a very high likelihood that this area will continue to grow. It will continue to attract outside investment, and that will be good for a lot of people.
Outstanding.
So the grand opening of the FBO is tomorrow, correct?
Tomorrow, we're doing the ribbon cutting at 11 a.m. tomorrow morning. We technically open the doors on April the 1st at 6 a.m., and we are serving customers, but we wanted to wait and make it easy for the airport authority, and so they have a regularly scheduled board meeting at 9 a.m. in the morning, and then after that board meeting, the airport authority members will come over to our FBO, and other guests will join. And at 11 a.m., we will start our ceremony and ribbon cutting, and most likely we're done by 11:30.
Well, outstanding. So what are we missing? We've been talking to Donald Howell. He's the president and CFO for our brand new Southern Sky Aviation. And you've been talking, Donald, John and I are tremendous aviation enthusiasts. I grew up on an Air Force base and was in the military for 20 years as an officer. And John also, he's got his airplane. So have we missed anything? We are so excited about this.
Well, the one thing that we haven't talked about is, as aviation enthusiasts and military, for all the listeners out there, we need to put in a plug for the air show that's coming to Panama City Beach, May 3rd, 4th, and 5th.
Yes. Well, it's wonderful. We're excited about that. And I've been here 10 years. We've never had it over Panama City Beach. So this is exciting.
So are they basing are y'all participating in that in any way? I mean, as far as
we will be very involved in that. Both Southern Sky Aviation and Shelter are working hand in hand with the military to make sure that the various military aircraft that are going to be in for the show that will need fueling, that we're dividing and conquering to make sure we can get those aircraft fueled and return to the airspace as quickly as possible. And so in business, we all know that we have competitors, but a lot of time those competitors are friendly competitors. And this is a great example of where we are friendly competitors, and we are working together to do what is best for this community in terms of making the air show operations as smooth as possible from our standpoint.
Excellent.
Well, I think we need to promote aviation in general. We need pilots, we need A&Ps, and we need to get the word out that there's good careers and there's plenty of opportunities available, and come on out to ECP.
Well, and I wanted to...
and I would also say that you don't have to be a pilot or a mechanic to get involved in aviation. There are a lot of people, especially in the fixed-based operation world, that we're just looking for very good customer service-oriented people with good personalities. They love to communicate with people because they can be your customer service representatives as customers get off the aircraft and they come through the door of the FBO. That's who is greeting you as a customer service representative. And so those can be very fruitful careers. for people that have the right personality and they enjoy talking with people.
Well, sounds great. And we've been talking with President and Chief Financial Officer of Southern Sky Aviation. And you can find them at southernskyAviation.com and on Facebook. And it's been such a pleasure, Donald, having you on Veronica Live. And we got to have you back because, this has been outstanding.
Well, thank you again for having me. And I'll be more than happy to join. Let's give it about a year. Let's talk about what kind of growth we've had over a year's time.
Sounds good. Well,
that'll be good.
We want to thank again President Donald Howell, and we'll be right back on Veronica Live. Thanks.